Hello, and welcome to On Demand Learning with MSU College of Nursing. Today's presentation is Designing Effective Presentations. This session is worth 0.25 contact hours of nursing continuing education credit. Michigan State University College of Nursing is accredited with distinction as a provider of nursing continuing professional development by the American Nurses Credentialing Center's Commission on Accreditation. Today's learning outcome is that upon completion of this learning activity, participants will state increased knowledge and example of designing effective presentations by achieving an 80% or greater on the post-session evaluation. Criteria to receive contact hours for this activity are to view the learning activity in its entirety, complete the post-session evaluation with a score of 80% or greater, and complete the survey following the post-session evaluation. At the end of the learning activity, scan the on-screen QR code with a phone camera to complete the post-session evaluation, survey, and payment if necessary. Following the completion of the evaluation and payment if necessary, an electronic contact hour certificate will be delivered to the email address that you provide. So again, today is a presentation on designing effective presentations. My name is Catherine Kowalski. I am an assistant professor and nurse planner for the College of Nursing at Michigan State University. So let's dig in and let's start with where do you even begin when designing a presentation? So I want to start off by talking about the putting together your presentation and 3 questions I really want you to ask yourself. So first, start with the goal. Concentrate on the topic, the content, maybe forming some objectives. You should really start by building objectives to really help guide your content, but then also have a learning outcome that you want to be your driving message. What do you want the audience to really take away from that? So again, focus on what the goal of the presentation is, and then what is the learning outcome that you hope to achieve. Those are really your stepping stones. And then next, know who you're really talking to. Depending on the audience and their level of knowledge on the subject, or maybe lack thereof, this will change how you present this information. Example, content would really look different if you were talking to novice nurses versus seasoned nurses, or faculty versus a healthcare audience, research versus a general audience. Other considerations I want you to think about are things such as format. So, right, is this an in-person event, online, hybrid? What's your time allotment that you have? You should really think about the time allotment you have and the amount of slides depending on the time that you're giving the presentation. Example, if you're asked to speak for about 60 minutes, make sure that your presentation is somewhere between 25 to 35 slides, because as an effective speaker and designing an effective presentation, you know that you're never going to be able to get through 60 slides in 60 minutes. You want to give yourself about 2 minutes per slide. Let's then kind of transition to the design of your slides. So you want to choose a general look for your presentation and really stick to it. Maintain kind of unity of those key design elements from slide to slide. So again, it's a more cohesive design, and that your audience really can kind of visually see that it all goes together. Busy slides are very distracting. You want to build a slide that is readable from a distance, and this is what white space is really doing. You want to use the white space effectively. And I feel that people often get scared to have too much white space, but actually it's more effective for your audience to view a less cluttered or busy slide so they can take away what you want your audience to learn most. So visuals should be readable from the back of the room. You should use a larger font, something like a 24. You want to avoid overly elaborate text space. Choose a simpler font, something like Helvetica, Arial, Times. And just another tip, avoid slide transitions and using animations sparingly, because these can be really distracting to an audience if you keep pinging things on the slides and really transitioning too quickly. Another thing is that if your audience has access to your slides, it is really best practice to put the number of your slide in the bottom corner or top corner in a handout to help participants really follow along. The next thing is simplified language and text. And this is all about leaning into that white space and how to use it most effectively. So you really want to think about limiting the amount of text on each slide. You don't want to reproduce your entire presentation script, but rather just give the audience those main points or keywords. And this is often best used in kind of like those bullet points or short phrases, again, to produce a really concise statement. Another thing is you can kind of edit out words, especially kind of added words in a statement until you get that statement to be as concise as possible. You want to avoid dense paragraphs, right? If you're doing a quote or something that has a little bit more text that you feel is really robust for the audience, that's a little bit different, but avoid utilizing big paragraphs or big definitions. Simplify it, right? Or maybe bolden it within a statement or a longer paragraph text to help really emphasize the main points. And always make sure that you're checking for spelling and grammar issues. Visuals and graphics. So I really love the quote by Melissa Marshall. It says, "Make the slide do something for you that words cannot." And this is where visuals and graphics really come in. You want to use images, graphs, charts, things like that to really help convey your message. And oftentimes, an audience member can really take more away from a picture or a graphic than a bunch of text on a slide. You want to assure that the images are really high quality and definition. You're not getting those, you're not stretching your images to then be, distorted. You also want to make sure that you're using proper copyright and citation with any images and or videos that you utilize throughout your presentation. And then make sure that you're testing the function of embedded videos and links. So if you're using this as an engagement strategy or a viewing strategy for your audience to get more information to supplement your presentation, always make sure that those videos, the audio, everything works prior to the presentation, and that you have the right settings set to the computer during the presentation so that there's no issues for your audience. Slide design strategies, you have to be really thoughtful in considering and prioritizing the experience for the audience. So again, it results in that stronger presentation. Audience and engagement. So again, we kind of already touched upon know the audience and what they need and what their needs are. What do you want them to take away from today, right? What are you trying to teach them? Where is the knowledge gap? What is it that you want to convey to this audience specifically? Then think about strategies of how you want to really engage the audience. Most people don't want to just be lectured at, right? You don't get as much from that experience if you're just sitting through a 60-minute presentation and they're just reading off slides, right? Try to incorporate questions, polls, case studies, things that really help your audience really engage in the content. And then always encourage questions from the audience. Now, whether you want to do this throughout the presentation or save questions for the end, always really encourage your audience to ask those detailed questions, because you're hoping to give them the information and you're the expert today, right? To provide them with further learning experience. And then how do we end? Right? So how to end a presentation. Make sure that you've referenced, used proper citations and resources for any materials used, and use them throughout the slides. That way your audience can really take away the information and go back to look up some of those resources if they want to at a later time. Provide professional contact information. Always have a slide at the end with your credentials, your email, maybe if you're comfortable, or a phone number, however you would prefer the audience to contact you. Again, for if any questions come up or they want more further information. Again, allow that audience that chance to ask the questions. This is a good time, especially to put your professional contact information. You can put a question slide and then provide that contact information right under it. And then always make sure to express gratitude at the end for their time and attention. They took time out of their day to come to your presentation, get your information, and just being genuine in thanking them for their time and giving your appreciation. The last thing that I'll leave you with today is we came up with this tips and tricks sheets on how to design an effective presentation, and just kind of really outlines what we've already gone over. But having a plan, creating that design, simplifying language, using visuals and graphics, and then engaging your audience, right? So those are those really core tips and tricks that can help you design an effective presentation. If you use your camera phone and scan the QR code, this takes you to a SharePoint resource through MSU in which you can access this tips and tricks sheet. So today, to wrap up today's session, this is the post-session evaluation link. You can go ahead and either copy the link at the top of the left-hand page or take your phone to scan the QR code. We ask that you please complete this activity evaluation and post-test. One, you need to pass the post-test with an 80% or greater, but then we also ask that you complete the evaluation survey and provide us feedback on this activity. Again, the email that you provide in this survey, you will receive your contact hours too. Again, thank you so much for joining us today on this on-demanding learning regarding designing effective presentations. Thank you.